Hi everybody. Today I am answering the question, my elderly parents didn't plan ahead. What do I do? What are the signs that I should have looked for? What might those red flags have been? So what do you do as an adult child when your elderly parents all of a sudden need help? And after a little bit of investigation, you figure out that your parents did not plan for anything related to health, home care, saving money for retirement or care, legal planning for care, and everything else that goes along with it. Their only plan was to contact you and expect you to drop everything in your life and show up to help. So regardless of your age and your relationship to this person who needs care, or maybe it's you or someone in your family that needs care, it's likely that there were plenty of little signs, plenty of red flags that you missed, that were screaming out to say, hey, pay attention to this. This is important. This could be a problem. But you missed them. Now, you may also be in a situation with your brothers and sisters. Half of you are concerned about your parents' health or a living situation, and the other half is saying, we don't want to ruffle feathers. We don't want to cause problems. We don't want to deal with it. Let's just wait and see what happens. Well, the problem then is you're just delaying the inevitable. When that disaster happens, your siblings who said, let's just wait and see what happens, they're not going to want to deal with the problem. Who do you think it's going to fall on? You, the children who wanted to be proactive and to do something. But they kind of held you back. Or they convinced you to just let it go. Or maybe you didn't want to fight with them. While denial may be a way to deal with your health issues or aging parent health issues or the health issues of another person, there is a point where somebody is going to have to deal with them. So if that person is you, the important thing to think about now is you need a plan. Then think about, what if you are an older adult and you just never imagined that you would be in the situation you are today? You thought your life would turn out differently, but today you have a lot of health problems and you have no plan to get help. Maybe you're divorced or widowed, or maybe you just never married, or maybe you are married and you're caring for a sick spouse and then along with that, an older parent. Caring for a spouse and aging parents at the same time can be a big combination when people age into their 50s and 60s and 70s and sometimes even 80s. And if you are that sole caregiver, that can be a huge responsibility and a huge problem for yourself. So no matter how you look at it, aging or elderly parents who didn't plan, adult children caring for aging parents who didn't plan, a spouse caring for a spouse who didn't want to talk about any of this, or you being that person who thought, nothing would ever happen, I'll worry about it later, it's so far down the road, and then all of a sudden, something happened. Doesn't matter where you are in this mix of things, it can be a very, very stressful and emotionally challenging and draining situation. If you're the caregiver in all this mix, I also probably suspect that you have some health problems going on that you've put on the back burner because you're caring for everybody else, but yet you're the only person who's dealing with all of this stress. So if you are feeling burned out, exhausted, hopeless, helpless, I want you to know there is help. I talk to so many individuals, and actually more and more every week, who find themselves in these examples that I gave. And I talk to them through one-to-one video or telephone consultations. You can find a link below to this video. to contact me or to schedule a consultation if you're interested. And what I can say is, unless you have a lot of experience in this area, and sometimes even if you do have experience, you may be too close to the situation and too emotionally attached to be able to take a step back and see it from a much bigger picture. And even more importantly, to recognize all of those red flags, because it's pretty likely that you're busy living your life, working, raising a family, maybe going to school, participating in social events, personal interests. And what happens is life goes on and many people just don't realize the importance of having a plan or having these conversations because they think, well, I'm too busy, I'll put it off for next week, or, when something happens, I'll deal with it. Well, then when you're dealing with it, you realize it's a much bigger problem than you ever imagined. So stay with me all the way to the end of this video so that I can explain the importance of planning, how to have a plan, family conversations that can really save you time, money, and a lot of stress and a lot of sleepless nights. I will share examples of common caregiving situations that you might already find yourself in. I will share some unexpected situations that can happen and then a list of red flags, things that you should be looking for so that you can initiate these conversations in your family today before things kind of move ahead and get worse. And yes, believe it or not, there's always something that we cannot predict that's going to happen that can make situations so much worse than they are today. So I want to just take a step back, do a quick introduction so you know why and how I am qualified to even talk to you about all of this. If you are a returning viewer, you probably know all this. Thank you so much for being here and your patience for a minute here. If you're a first-timer, welcome. I'm Pamela D. Wilson, a caregiving expert, advocate, and speaker. I help adults and caregivers plan for and work through health, financial, legal aspects of caregiving, navigating family relationships, care communities, paying for care, everything that goes along with it. You can find more information about me and my over 20 years of professional experience doing this by scrolling below the comment section. So down there, below this video, you'll find links to my website, PamelaDWilson.com, and other helpful links to my podcast, online courses, blog posts, videos. Please do help me and help other people by liking this video, follow my channel, share these videos, and comment, even if it's only to say thanks for the video. One thank you helps so many other people find their way here to this channel and the help that they are looking for. Again, my website's PamelaDWilson.com. Big thank you in advance to everybody who follows, likes, and comments. So let's start with these situations that just catapult you into the role of being a caregiver. It's that 3 a.m. phone call. It's the call you get from your parents saying, oh my gosh, you'll never believe what happened. Okay? So, how does this happen? You, an aging parent or a spouse, didn't know the importance of paying attention to your health from a very young age, teens, 20s, 30s, 40s. And so now, today, you have a lot of health conditions, a lot of diagnosis, maybe high blood pressure, diabetes, breathing problems, arthritis, kidney problems, any type of cancer, a lot of health conditions. And so you're taking a lot of medications and you're going to maybe multiple doctors and you're just like, oh, this is exhausting dealing with all these people and all these problems, right? But it's because you didn't know the importance. Nobody in your family told you. And let's face it, there's not a lot of information out there in the news about being proactive about your health. They don't teach this stuff in school, and I believe they should. Situation number 2 is you have a doctor, but you haven't been really good about going for those annual checkups because you know what? I feel okay. It's not a priority. But then what happens is when you go, you may have a health problem that you could have prevented if it was caught earlier. And today it's pretty serious. So let's say, for example, your parent had a heart attack and they didn't even know they had high blood pressure. Or a loved one goes to the emergency room because they are unconscious and they're sweaty and they don't feel good. And all of a sudden they are diagnosed with diabetes or some other health problem. These are all kinds of things that can happen and do happen. when people don't seek regular medical care and checkups and get annual screenings. Let's say that you or an elderly loved one already have all these health conditions. And so, as I mentioned before, you're seeing 2, 3, 4 doctors, and all these doctors are writing prescriptions, and instead of having one pharmacy, you have 2 pharmacies. Well, that can cause a lot of problems, because if these doctors are not connected by electronic medical health records, if the pharmacies are not connected, one doctor doesn't know what the other doctor's doing, and they don't know your other diagnoses, and maybe they're prescribing the same medications, and it can be a big mess for you and a lot of trouble, and actually not good for your health. Then look at, where do you live? What's your home like? Does your home need a lot of work and repairs? Is there clutter? Does your parents' house have stuff that has been in there for, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, stuff that they are attached to and they do not want to get rid of? Well, 1, it can present health hazards, but 2, it can be a lot of work if something happens and your parents going to the hospital and a nursing home, and they can't return to that home, and then the home has to be sold, and you got repairs and clutter, and you got to get dumpsters and do a lot of work. That can be a nightmare. Another scenario, mom or dad has that heart attack because they didn't know they had high blood pressure, or they were diagnosed with diabetes or something else. Maybe they broke a hip and they were in the hospital, and then they went to rehab or a nursing home, and the nursing home saying, hey, it's time to go home. And you're looking at your parents saying, well, how on earth are they going to take care of themselves? They're not healthy enough. You're saying, well, the nursing home, why can't you keep them? Well, I'll tell you, a discharge date is a discharge date. And this happens all the time. Families think that when parents go to rehab, they're going to be there for like months. Well, sometimes yes. Most of the time, you're lucky to get 20 or 21 days. When I managed care for clients, Friday afternoon, clockwork, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, our office phones would be ringing like crazy. And it would be children saying, oh my gosh, my parents, I got to go pick them up from the nursing home in like an hour, and they can't take care of themselves. What are we going to do? It happens all the time. It's a position that you do not want to find yourself in. Then other complications, right? Not even like totally health related, but probably a little health related. Your loved ones are having difficulty paying their bills. And it could be due to they can't manage their money. Maybe they don't have enough money. Maybe they're not spending their money wisely. Maybe they got memory problems. And so they don't get their prescriptions filled. There's no food in the house. The electricity accidentally got shut off. Maybe their cell phone got shut off. Health insurance premiums weren't paid. Maybe they got a dog and they're more concerned about like the dog having dog food versus them having food themselves. All of those cause problems. And then it's time to consider, gosh, do they have memory loss? What are the signs of memory loss? What should I be watching out for? And let's say that maybe you're already in the thick of this, right? And you're talking to your parents about needing help, and maybe you're making some recommendations. Maybe the doctors are saying a few things, and your parents don't want to listen. And they say, well, you know what? I told your brother or sister, I gave them a loan 10 years ago, and they promised, in return for that money, that they didn't pay back, by the way, that they were going to take care of me. Well, you're looking at your brother and sister. They are nowhere to be found. And they don't want to talk about this loan or the promises they made. So what now? Who does it fall onto? Or maybe, similar scenario, your parents named your brother or sister who live halfway across the country as the medical and the financial power of attorney. They didn't tell you about it, but those siblings, up in smoke, disappeared. And so you call your siblings and you find out that, well, they had a disagreement with your mom and dad because your mom and dad didn't want to listen to them. So they told your parents, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to be your medical or financial power of attorney. But they didn't formally resign. They didn't formally create a notice and have it notarized and send it to your parents. So your parents knew that they weren't going to help. Your parents just assumed that they'll get over this little disagreement, whatever it is. Well, family disagreements don't always go away. So now you're in this situation. and you have a big mess to unravel. You don't know what to do. Your parents are kind of like leaving it all up to you. They don't know what to do either, and they expect you to help. And those brothers and sisters who promised, nowhere to be found. So now what? So I want to take a step back. So the first part of this video was like, we're in the thick of things. It is a big mess, right? Let's take a step back and just look at how these things happen with respect to unexpected events that happen regardless of your age. You could be 30 years old and have a health problem, or 50 years old and have a health problem, or 80 years old and have a health problem. So it applies to everybody who's watching here. Whether you're a caregiver, middle-aged, elderly parent, doesn't matter, right? Where we put our attention in life is where we get our results. If you're building a career, you're hopefully getting some career results. If you're having children and raising a family, you might be having and raising a beautiful, beautiful family. But I'm going to tell you, if you don't pay attention to your health, to some degree, at some point, a health issue can derail every other plan that you have in your life. Because without pretty good or reasonable health, you're not going to be able to work and support your family. You won't be able to raise and take care of your kids. You won't be able to earn money to pay your bills and save for your retirement and your future care. And I will say that even honestly, sometimes if you are proactive about your health, you may have this diagnosis, honestly, that just shows up out of nowhere. It comes out of the blue. No family history, no nothing. There's no explanation, rhyme, or reason for whatever happened to you, right? But it's life affecting. So this makes people uncomfortable, okay? People will say, well, Pamela, if something's going to happen, why should I plan? Or if I don't know if something's going to happen, why should I plan? And I'm like, that's why you should plan, because life is unexpected. It's filled with all these unexpected things that we cannot possibly plan for, and we don't know, especially if you don't work in this industry and do what I do. So the reality is, and nobody wants to talk about this, right? We are not going to live forever. We are going to die. Everyone is going to die from something. And so the degree of attention that you give to your health throughout your life, teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, all the way to the end, contributes to your quality of life and how and when and where you will die. Again, not a subject we want to talk about, which is why families and married couples and elderly parents and their children do not have these discussions, right? Sometimes you need somebody like me to start the conversation. So share this video, like it, have your family watch it together. It's important to have these conversations. Better to do it before you are in a crisis, when your parents are in the hospital or somebody's diagnosed with Alzheimer's or cancer, or they need kidney dialysis or something else, because it's better to plan before you're emotionally involved and you're scattered and you can't think and you're just all over the place, right? So even if you are in perfect health today, or you think you are going to need a plan for all these unexpected things that you cannot possibly imagine. I can tell you that because I have managed care for thousands of people, and nobody ever expects anything is going to happen. And let's look at a recent example. So here in the United States, this year, end of 2024, southeastern part of the United States, oh my gosh, unusual weather, hurricanes, floods, homes destroyed, all of that kind of stuff. In some cases, individuals had insurance, maybe they were underinsured, their homes were destroyed. How many elderly parents do you think were living in those homes that were destroyed, who are now depending on their adult children for a place to live, while their damaged homes are either repaired, or they're scrapped, or they just have to sell the land and the property and get out of it? That's an unexpected problem, right? We don't plan for that. We don't plan for the earthquake or the tornado or the hurricane or some other weather-related issue or health-related issue. So the point I'm trying to make here is health problems and medical care, they're only one component of these unexpected problems that happen with age. You own a home, you live somewhere, right? Property ownership and maintenance. It doesn't get less expensive when you get older. Your lifelong habits. Were you proactive about your health? Did you save money? Did you maintain good relationships? Family secrets. Do you have family secrets in your family? Are there expectations in your family about who's going to provide care? Do you get along with your siblings or not? Did you plan for your retirement? All these increases in costs, inflation, groceries are more expensive. Health insurance, changes in doctors, your doctors retire. You've got managing medications and pharmacies and all this kind of stuff. Friends who die. I mean, not happy stuff to talk about, but it's part of life that we must talk about. And especially if you are a solo ager, which means that you never married, or maybe you married and you're widowed, or you married and you're divorced and you're still single. Start thinking about your plan. If you're a married couple, start having these unpleasant conversations. Get it out on the table so that you know what each other wants. If you are an adult child, doesn't matter if you're 20, 30, 40, 50, have conversations with your aging parents. Because I can tell you, based on the couples that I counsel in my one-on-one consultations, these parents are not telling their children everything because they want to manage and control their own lives. At least some parents, right? Some parents do expect their children to care for them. And those parents haven't had conversations with their children. They're just like, oh, when it happens, they'll show up. And I'm like, you might want to ask, maybe they're not going to show up. Maybe they aren't thinking they're going to care for you. You may be on two different sides of that page. So look at this scenario. You're an adult child. One parent's caring for the other, and one dies. And then you find out that the parent who died, the one that you thought was the healthier parent, had a lot of health problems, and they shielded you from everything that they did to care for your surviving mother or father. Your mother or father who was left behind may have a lot of health problems, a lot of mental health problems, a lot of behaviors, and a lot of expectations about how they're cared for. Maybe your healthy mom or dad who died waited on them hand and foot and let them have everything they wanted and never disagreed with them. Well, you're going to inherit a very spoiled and entitled parent who expects you to duplicate what their spouse did. And that may not even be remotely possible. Let's say that you are married. Look at your relationship with your spouse and the areas of your disagreements and your commonalities, right? So is one of you healthy and the other one is not so interested or proactive in their health? Do you have differences in your belief about work and saving money and spending money? Do you have differences in beliefs about how you approach your children or talk to your children if you have children? How does all that come together, or how do all of those issues that are disagreements affect you, and how will they affect you when one of you needs care and the other of you has to care for the other person? While these can seem like really small differences when you're young and you can manage them and just kind of ignore them and put them on the shelf, I will tell you, when you become older and one of you needs care, these become monumental issues, or they can become monumental issues. Again, if your parents expecting your children to care for you, you better be having these conversations now. So let's get to the last section of this video, which are red flags. What should you be watching out for, whether you're in the middle of this situation or you're at the beginning? What things can potentially cause more problems for you? Well, obvious one. Families who don't get along. Again, may not be a big deal when you grow up and you move out of the house and you're not in touch with your siblings, but I'm going to tell you, when aging parents need care and y'all have to come back together, or maybe not, those relationships are going to make a big deal whether you get along or not. Those are going to be the siblings who are like, I'm not taking care of mom and dad. That's, you got a good relationship with, you were the favorite kid. You take care of it. We're not getting involved. And this leads to families who do not have discussions about aging and caregiving and family expectations. If you don't talk about that now, it is going to blow up one day. Guaranteed. You've got to talk. You've got to plan about it. adults who marry and then remarry because of death or divorce. Those blended families that you inherit, you better be having conversations there and with your birth children. There can be huge issues around whose money is whose money, whose house is whose house, who gets the money when we die, who's going to care for us. All kinds of legal problems because spouses remarry and they think it's just going to be this happy thing, and then it turns out to be not this happy thing because of all these complications. Spouses who do not talk about the practicalities of one spouse outliving the other. What happens if you have a very sick spouse and they need all the family money to pay for their care, and they die and you're left with nothing, and you can't afford to pay your mortgage or buy groceries or anything like that? Is that fair? Is that really what you want for your other spouse? If you don't have those conversations before these things happen and you don't make a plan, whoever is that caregiver, that surviving spouse, could have a lot of problems to deal with. Other things about health, and I briefly touched on this earlier. Not going for an annual physical or a checkup that can catch health problems long before you end up in the hospital emergency room, or long before you end up with a diagnosis that's hard to change. Think of these little yearly doctor appointments as an investment in your future and your retirement plan and how you want to live. Because if you're not healthy, that's going to affect every part of your life. If you're a caregiver or the person who needs care, you already know how it's affecting your life. So have those screenings: cholesterol, triglycerides, blood sugar, blood pressure, annual mammograms, colonoscopies, whatever is on the list. Get those done. And then if you don't do all this right, you could have physical problems. Maybe you've had an injury, back problems, neck problems, headaches, health or mental health problems. If you're stressed out, you're probably stressed out, you're not sleeping, you might have stomach aches, all these stress-related issues. They can grow in severity over time and again cause one health problem, causes the next and the next and the next and the next. And then not learning about your health conditions, red flag. Not learning about the medications that you take, red flag. Having side effects from medications and not telling your doctor, red flag. Most older adults take 5, 10, 15 medications. Do you know why? Well, it could be because they see multiple doctors and Dr. A doesn't know what Dr. B is prescribing and what Dr. C is prescribing. You have multiple pharmacies. They're not matching these things up. They're having drug interactions. You're having side effects. So what does your doctor do? He's like, oh, I have a pill for the side effect, for that side effect that the medication is causing and for the side effect that that medication is causing. So instead of taking 2 medications, you're taking 6 medications, 4 to deal with the side effects of the first 2 medications. That's crazy. Try a different medication. But if you don't speak up, you're just going to be taking 10 or 15 pills that are going to make you sicker and sicker and sicker, and you're not even going to know what's going on. Then we get to ignoring a doctor's recommendation or not questioning a doctor's recommendation. If a doctor recommends something and you can't do it or you don't want to do it, it's really important to speak up because that can cause all kinds of other problems. Not noticing that you have a change in health and not doing anything about it. Major health problem down the road. Not having a primary care doctor that you trust. Not having somebody that you can call to say, hey, I'm not feeling well, can I get an appointment? Going to the emergency clinics and the doc in the box, yeah, they work, but that's not regular medical care. I got a little tongue twisted there. Suspicions about memory loss that you don't confirm. Your elderly parents in denial, they don't want to go get a memory test. Or maybe you live alone and you don't even know that you're forgetful. Although maybe some people tell you that you're repeating conversations and you're forgetful and you're thinking, I'm fine, I don't want to listen, you're in denial. Not diagnosing memory loss can lead to huge problems later because you have an opportunity to plan if you know what the problem is early. Later on, you can have all kinds of other problems because memory loss is going to advance. You or your parent could be in denial. That could be a huge, huge problem. Then back to the medication front, you have all these medications, you're not taking them, or maybe you're telling your spouse, hey, this would be a good medication for this problem, and you're like sharing medications or mixing them up. Huge problem. I think the number 6 reason, or somewhere thereabouts, that elderly adults go into the hospital is because of taking the wrong medications, taking too many medications, or not taking medications. And then let's get to all the practical planning stuff that, again, people don't want to talk about. Saving money for retirement, even if it's a small sum of money over a long period of time, it will add up. Not having a financial planner, to me, is a big mistake. You don't need to have a lot of money to have a financial planner. $25 a month, you could have a financial planner. They can explain to you the ins and outs of retirement savings and all of this kind of stuff that can really help you over the long run. Not having a life insurance policy, especially if you are married and have children. Not looking into long-term care insurance. Look into it. See if it's something that you should get. It pays for your care when you're older, especially if you're not going to be able to save enough money. That goes along with the legal aspects of not having an estate plan for a medical and a financial power of attorney, a living will, a will, and a trust. And then this last one. Nobody wants to talk about this one either. What do you want for your final disposition? Meaning, when you die, do you want to be buried or cremated? Where do you want to be placed? Do you want a service? All that. Have that conversation. Prepay for those expenses. You can prepay for that plan because it's only going to go up by 10% every year. And if you die and you haven't paid for it and there's no money left in your bank account, who do you think is going to pay for it? Who are you expecting to pay for it? I know this is a lot of information in a video that started out talking about, oh my gosh, my elderly parents didn't plan. And maybe you're watching this and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I don't have a plan. I could talk about planning forever because it's one of the big things that I help my clients with. So not having a plan is the big problem. Who's going to provide the care? How are you going to pay for the care? How is it going to be provided? What happens after that? So I thank you all so much for being here again. Please like this video, comment, even if it's only to say thanks, follow my channel, share these videos with people in your family. And if you need help with any caregiving related issue, family discussions, you need to learn about guardianship, power of attorney, schedule a one-to-one care consultation with me. The link is below. You can also go to my website, PamelaDWilson.com, click on services and then elder care consultant. You can fill out that request form and I will respond. Have a fabulous day today. Thank you again so much for being here. I will see you all again soon in another video.